guys, it's Katie from Without a Crystal Ball. Welcome to my channel. I was stuck in a rabbit hole. Do you ever get stuck in a rabbit hole where you are like, I need to know everything about something, and if I don't know it, I need to know it now kind of thing? Like, and then you start digging and the rabbit hole is so deep and you don't even know which direction to go or where to look. That's been my day today. And I want to talk with you about a story that's going to be unique to this channel because it's not something I typically cover or a person I typically cover, but the story is near and dear to my heart because it involves a child. And so let's start from the beginning. Are you familiar with a rapper singer named Flo Rida? I think a lot of you guys, especially if you listened to, hip hop and rap back in the mid 2000s into, the early 20 teens, you might recognize him. He had his debut hit single, well, not debut, but his hit single that sort of catapulted him into fame was Low, apple bottom jeans with the fur. Yeah, that song. The whole crowd was looking at her. That song, yeah. So, and then he went on and he had songs like My House, Welcome to My House. I'm not a good singer, by the way. Or You Spin Me Right Round, Baby, Right Round. Yeah, that song too. Okay, so Flo Rida has had a successful music career. He hasn't put out any studio albums since 2015, but it hasn't stopped him from doing a lot of philanthropic work. He is currently all online doing some stuff to help with testing centers to deal with the germs that are out there. He's been spending time doing stuff for kids. In 2017, he had visited a center for children dealing with health issues, and he has used his platform to not only flaunt his wealth, but to try to give back. Okay, now here's the catch. He has a son that is 3 years old, and his name is Zohar. Now, it's not his only son. There's multiple women. If you Google his name, which is Tramar Dillard, you can see that there are multiple women that have had to go through paternity tests and have had children with him, and he is not necessarily the most hands-on father, if you know what I'm saying. So back in 2016, he and this woman named Alexis Adams, they meet, or maybe it's 2015. Now, she actually sat down with the Daily Mail several years ago and talked about how, they had met through a friend and it wasn't anything exclusive, but they were dating and they did have a few interactions that could ultimately result in pregnancy. And she had flown and spent time with him, and the Daily Mail at that time had posted photos of the two of them together. And she becomes pregnant. And she told the Daily Mail back then, hey, like when I told him I was pregnant, he asked me to get rid of it. And then when I wouldn't, then he ultimately cut things off and he wasn't interested anymore. And apparently this has happened to other women. If you Google his name, you will see that. And there was another woman back in 2014 that also had a positive paternity test. So there's at least 2 confirmed, but I've heard that there's rumors that there could be more. Either way, he's not actively involved with any of these children, and Alexis's son, Zohar, has medical conditions. So when she was pregnant, she found out that her son was diagnosed with hydrocephalus and would require long-term care to manage that specific condition. And since he was been born, he's had to undergo multiple procedures for his eyes, and it appears as though he has been diagnosed with autism. So he has the stuff related to his brain, he has stuff related to his eyes, and he also has developmental disabilities, which she has been forced to have to manage as a single mother, which can be challenging. Now, if you Google the two of them, you can find out through a website called Boss Up, who's been covering the story for a very long time, that the two of them actually have had she's been fighting to get him to pay for child support, for his medical expenses, for his tuition for school. She has been fighting for, getting the custody set up. He eventually gave up custody of his son, but he is required by a court now to pay child support, health insurance, along with his educational expenses. So Flo Rida's net worth, according to the internet, and I don't know how accurate this is around $30 million. He has a 7,200 square foot mansion that he owns in Florida. He owns a Bugatti, which is a luxury car that he spent, I think, $1.7 million on. He has 2 Phantom Rolls Royces, which baseline price, they start at $455,000. He has gifted Rolls Royces to his brother for his birthday. He hangs out with the likes of 50 Cent, Flavor Flav, and other sort of rappers within that same genre. He flies on private jets. He has recently posted photos on his home of people at his house. He has a custom studio that is completely outfitted for recording, where he can not only record his own music but have other people come in. In 2020, he invested in a distillery back in Miami for vodka. He has a health and fitness line in which that he promotes on his Instagram. Long story short, even though he's not putting out music, the guy has his hands into a lot of different businesses and a lot of different means to make a whole lot of money. And he flaunts his wealth all over Instagram. And he's also on Instagram promoting emergency testing places and for COVID. And he's also, going to cancer hospitals to see sick children. Okay. But there's a 3-year-old boy in New York that does not have the proper medical care. So here's what's going on. Bossip actually broke the story, and how I was alerted to it was about a month ago. One of my subscribers reached out to me and they were like, Katie, I really think you need to look into this. I know people that know people, and this is a really crazy story. Flo Rida has this little boy, and he lives in New York, and his mom is a single mom. And he just got kicked out of his school because Flo Rida won't pay for his tuition. His mom says that he needs some medical procedures, and his insurance lapsed because Flo Rida refused to pay for his insurance premiums. And he's supposed to be paying like $9,000 a month for child support, but apparently it's always behind. And they said, I want you to look into this. Here's some things to look at. And they sent me to, a Wendy Williams video back in 2017, where she brought this whole situation to the forefront when the baby was 7 months old. And so Wendy does this thing on the Hot Topics and talks about how, there's this 7-month little boy who has special needs and chronic health conditions, and Flo Rida has basically ignored him. Then I start doing some more Googling, and the source says, I've heard that, he's never really met him but one time. And I was like, okay, was there a paternity test? Yes, there was. So there's a positive paternity test, which was posted by the Daily Mail, which shows that Flo Rida is 99.9% the child's father. And this little boy in New York doesn't have services now because his father hasn't paid for his tuition. So apparently, according to the court records, that Bossip actually broke a story yesterday that he's actually a motion was filed to find him in contempt of court for not adhering to the requirements of the court order that he pay for the school's tuition along with his medical expenses, because he was going to this expensive private school for children that have special needs. Now, the private school is specifically to help children that have autism or other high needs to maintain and to have the best resources, the best services to get them what they need. Apparently in New York, it's pretty difficult for kids. From the people I've talked to, there can be very long waiting lists if you want them to receive care. There can be issues with doctors. People have said, well, is she on Medicaid? I don't believe so. And either way, why would she be on Medicaid when the child's father has $30 million? Anyways, basically, he goes to a school that is around $80,000 a year, and it's specifically for children with special needs. And so he had been there and he'd been doing really well, and he had unfortunately been removed from the school, and he's not allowed to come back because there's an outstanding tuition bill that Flo Rida is supposed to be paying. Flo Rida was recently posting photos with all of his luxury cars, with giving his brother cars. This is not a guy that has any sort of lack of income. He has the means to pay for this, and he doesn't want to. And to give you sort of an example about what he does to help people, or claims to do. Back in 2017, he visited Jackson Health Foundation, which is an organization to help children with cancer. And he actually said that he was looking forward to, he said, during my visit to the Holtz Children's Hospital, I was touched by so many wonderful people that give so much of themselves to help the children in need. I'm honored to be the foundation's first celebrity ambassador and use my voice to raise awareness for this amazing cause. So he becomes a celebrity ambassador for this Jackson Health Foundation for children with cancer. This happens around the same time that it leaks that he has this son with special needs that he doesn't want to take care of. So fast forward now, Zohar is about to be 4 years old. He has hydrocephalus, which has not received the proper treatment because insurance issues with lapsed insurance have prevented doctors and interrupted his care throughout the years. He has not been able to go to school now for several months because his school kicked him out because of everything that's happened with his dad not paying for it. He has a mother who's spending all of her time and resources trying to get her child care and make sure that he gets, his treatment for autism, his medical care. And not only that, like, he's never met his son. So from my understanding of everything I've read, the mother is not bitter. She doesn't have anger towards him. She really just wants to make sure this little child has a voice and a choice and has somebody out there in the wider media and that can sort of say, like, hey, you guys, this kid needs help. This kid needs support. We need all of this for him. He needs to go back to school. So what's happening now? Well, last week, according to Boss Up, they filed this injunction, which basically is they want to hold him in contempt of court for not paying for him to go to school and make him pay the backdated tuition to get Zohar back in school. Even though schools are currently closed for COVID, he could still be able to go back because right now he has no services at all because of the public wait lists and all of that stuff. And she doesn't have any of her own insurance. The mom doesn't have her own insurance for Zohar. There is also medical procedures that apparently the child needs. Bossip obtains court records, which basically says that the mom says that his behavioral health and his overall health has been deteriorating because Flo Rida is refusing to pay everything. And it's just sort of telling to me that someone who can be on social media and doing things for the wider good, like for COVID and kids with cancer, and then flaunting his wealth. Like, he was literally in his stories yesterday. There were photos of him having a house party at his house with girls and expensive bottles and, people just having a good old time. And it's like, that's cool. Like, I'm glad that you can afford that. You're hanging out with 50 Cent, who's like literally like one of the, don't even get me started. So Zohar, this little boy, needs resources. He needs assistance. He needs to go to school. And there's somebody out there who has a net worth, apparently, allegedly, of $30 million that's not taking care of him. And it's interesting because my source actually pointed me to Zohar's mom had set up an Instagram page for it. And I'll show you, it's right here. And you can see that Flo Rida is actually tagged on there, but it's not hyperlinked. And apparently I was told that Flo Rida had blocked his son, and he kind of like tries to block out anything related to this child because he doesn't want anyone to know about this child, allegedly. So whether or not, he is the father or not is not contested because there's test results that prove that. Whether or not he didn't want the child isn't irrelevant because the child is here. There are court orders. And now the problem is enforcement because he's in Florida. So the orders are now in court in New York, but he's in Florida. And so for an order to be enforced, he has to come up to New York. So it's a mess. Like, how do you get this little kid services? How do you get him back in school? And how do you get this man to respond when he's partying with his friends, driving his expensive cars, hanging out in his Lamborghini or his Bugatti and his, millions of dollars mansion, and then he's got this little boy out there that's not getting the care that he needs? It's kind of sad if you think about it. And it really makes me frustrated as a mom with a child that has autism because we know how expensive this is. We know how imperative services are for children at this age. He has the means and the resources to care for this child, and for some reason he has not made good on it according to court records. Now, I can't say like what he says about it because he literally doesn't say anything publicly about this little boy. And, you know, that's kind of the sad part. Like, I don't know if he's just being a deadbeat and he doesn't care and he doesn't want to care. And the little boy, like, sort of has made it inconvenient for his lifestyle. That I don't know. But if you have $30 million, you have a $1.8 million Bugatti, you've got a multi-million dollar home, you've got a studio, and you have all these businesses, you can clearly afford the money for your child to go to school and have medical procedures, and the child's care shouldn't be interrupted. So why wouldn't he be paying? I don't understand. Do you guys understand? Does it make sense to you? It hasn't, and it's weird because the story has not made a lot of attention. It hasn't made a lot of splashes. It's primarily stayed within the Black entertainment community. And I don't know if it's just because he's not as well known anymore, but I know I'm going to use my platform to share the story and see, you know, what your guys' thoughts are. Do you think it's weird that he's not paying for this? Do you think he might have financial issues? Is he broke because he's not making money? Or is he just being a deadbeat and not paying for his kid? Why isn't he paying for his kid? You know, say what you want about the woman. I'm sure his excuse will be like, oh, she was a gold digger. You know, she just got pregnant. I'm sure there'll be all kinds of slamming things that can come around to her. But at the end of the day, it shouldn't matter about mom. It should matter about the little boy. And if the little boy isn't getting the care that he needs, and you've got a millionaire father, I think that's a problem, right? All right, tell me what your thoughts are in the comments below. Bye, guys.